As the hunter Thete moves from the official borders of the Shire into Buckland, it will be a short step away from there before we explore the Old Forest, a place of ancient power which warrants a little background into the governing powers in Tolkien's world. In this episode, I will be exploring the Ainur, the powers which created and shaped the world in which Middle-earth resides, known as Arda. I will also be investigating the brilliance of Tolkien's structure of deities. As is commonly known, j.r.r. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis were both Oxford dons who supported each other in their writings. They were also both devout Christians. But whereas C.S. Lewis wrote his Narnia books through the prism of his religion, with very obvious links to Christian beliefs, Tolkien was presented with a bit of a problem. He was not simply trying to create a fantasy world as Lewis was, he was trying to create a mythology. And there are a couple of things you notice about mythologies the world over. They are based upon a polytheist system of deities, and the god's presence is felt by the mortals in a very real sense. In some mythologies, contact between the gods and the mortals is more common than in others, but there is no act of faith about it. Their existence cannot be in any doubt. But Tolkien was still a Catholic, and given that he was writing a mythology for a world that he considered real enough, he would be at something of a quandary. The solution, in my opinion, was quite brilliant. The world of Arda, of which Middle-earth is a part, was created by the Ainur. Each one had their role in the creation and shaping of the world. Some of the Ainur then chose to live on Arda to continue their work. In this way, Tolkien created a pantheon of gods perfectly in keeping with expected ancient mythology. They even had a leader in Manwë, a powerful and destructive villain in Melkor, and all lived on a part of the world not really accessible to the mortal races. It was almost right out of Greek mythology. But where did the Ainur come from? Well, they had a creation story of their own. They were brought into existence by Eru, known as Ilúvatar in Middle-earth. Although the Ainur created the world of Arda, they themselves were created by Ilúvatar. Not only that, but Arda was created according to Ilúvatar's design. The Ainur were simply carrying out his wishes. They were the labourers for his architecture. So the world was created by a pantheon of gods, but there is in reality one supreme being in the Tolkien cosmology, Ilúvatar. So it is really a monotheist system that just appears polytheist to the living races of Arda. A quite brilliant way to reconcile his two desires. Or maybe I'm reading too much into it, who knows. So let's explore the nature of Ilúvatar's creations a bit more. All of the beings created by Ilúvatar directly are known as Ainur, but not all are of equal power. Of the Ainur who created Arda, 14 of them chose to live on the world in order to continue to shape Ilúvatar's design and to combat the discordance of Melkor, of whom I shall speak soon. These became known as the Valar. There are other Ainur on Arda as well. Their role was to serve the Valar in their works. These beings are known as Maiar. Although Arda was created and shaped to Ilúvatar's design, including the creation of the elves and of men, there was one who had their own ideas. Melkor was a bit of a renegade and wanted to impose his own design on Arda. The Valar fought against this. It would take the combined might of them to work against Melkor's destruction, as he was the mightiest of the Ainur. After initially forcing Melkor to leave Arda, the Valar and Maiar continued with their shaping of Arda. Note that at this point no races had yet been awakened. The elves were to be the first, followed by men. However, another race were to technically look upon the world before elves or men, the Dwarves. This was due to the hapless Orlé, the smith and lord of the underground. He created the 7 original dwarves, including Durin of course, as a labour of love, but these were not of Ilúvatar's design. So as not to incur the displeasure of his creator, Orlé sadly made ready to destroy his creation, but Ilúvatar had a change of heart. He told Orlé that he could keep his children, but that they could not awaken before his elves. So they were put to sleep deep underground, to be awoken much later on. Orlé was actually a bit of a jinx in many ways. The 2 Maiar who were placed under his command were Mairon, who we know better as the Dark Lord Sauron, and Curumo, who became Saruman. Now, these were not the only Maiar to be corrupted, but they were chief amongst those who tried to claim lordship over Middle-earth. The Valar settled a land known as Valinor and created 2 trees to give the world light. Eventually, however, Melkor returned with the Great Spider, a Maiar known as Ungoliant, and attacked Valinor. Ungoliant consumed the trees of Valinor and the land lost its light. The Valar placed the sun and the moon in the heavens in order to give light back to the world. Melkor, who became known as Morgoth, also counted other Maiar amongst his servants. These included the Balrogs, with Gothmog being the most powerful, and Sauron, who would later take his place as the Dark Lord and attempt to take control of Middle-earth himself. Indeed, Ungoliant became so powerful after the attack on Valinor that Melkor needed the aid of the Balrogs to rescue him from the Spider's grasp. Eventually, the Valar physically invaded Middle-earth itself. They had been trying to avoid direct confrontation with many of the mortal races of Middle-earth that must be allowed to live out their destinies. They made an exception for the elves, whom they liked so much that they invited them to live on Valinor. Not all accepted, but even those that did were later banished when they rebelled against the Valar, their minds poisoned by Sauron. But that's a story for another time. With the full might of the Valar brought to bear in Middle-earth, Melkor was defeated and banished. Sauron took up the mantle of his master and eventually invaded Middle-earth with the aid of his Ring of Domination. He was defeated by an alliance of men and elves, but not fully vanquished. The Valar decided to send 5 Maiar to aid the peoples of Middle-earth and guide them until Sauron could be finally destroyed. As Maiar are incredibly powerful, it was felt that they should adopt weaker forms, in order that it be their wisdom which was put to use, and not raw strength. It was vital that these 5, which became known as the Istari, but we know them as wizards, did not dominate. They were to be advisors only. The leader of the Istari was to be Olorin, whom we know as Mithrandir or Gandalf. However, he doubted his abilities to lead, and so deferred to Kuruma, who took the name Saruman. But Mithrandir should not have doubted himself. He was always the wisest and most powerful of the Istari, and Saruman was jealous of this. Despite being head of the Wizard Order, Saruman ever felt inferior to Mithrandir, and this seed of jealousy eventually blossomed into corruption and a desire to dominate the free peoples of Middle-earth. And that is a quick rundown of the immortal forces which shaped Middle-earth. It will become important next week when we explore the ancient powers at work in the Old Forest between Buckland and Bree. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please give it a like and comment below. If you'd like to see more, then subscribe for weekly episodes and share with others who may also be interested. And until next time, I'll see you later.